you tired of letting excuses, fear, and self-doubt keep you from moving forward with passion and purpose? Join me, Lisa Malcolm, as I connect you to the unstoppables, the go-getters, the change makers, and the ones who took a chance on living their best life by doing what they love. It's time for a kick in the yes. Welcome to Kick in the Yes podcast. I'm so happy you're here. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can get the latest episodes as they're released. Now let's get started. I'm really excited about today's show because it's all about you, your worth, your value, and how to get it. My guest today is Christine Sarno, personal development and business strategist and your wingwoman to success. We're going to talk about how to know your value, how to ditch the doubt when it comes to asking for money or a promotion, how to become fierce, confident, and get comfortable with knowing how to get what you want, and also know when to say no and how to walk away from a deal that just may not be the best for you. So let's get started. Christine, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here to help us figure out how the heck we can get past the doubts and get to a point where we understand our value and our worth. I'm really looking forward to this conversation on how to know your value, how to ditch the doubt when asking for money or a promotion, how to get comfortable with knowing how to get what you want, and how to say no and walk away. But before we dig in, tell us how you became so passionate about this subject.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be able to share this time with you and to be able to share the strategies that have actually translated into my own personal success with you and your audience. So I appreciate that so much. Truthfully, the reason why I'm so inspired to share these tools, if you will, it's primarily because of my own upbringing as a child. I'm second generation, half Chinese. My mom moved to the U.S. without being able to speak pretty much a word of English. English was a second language for her. She also moved to this country in an unfortunate dynamic in an abusive marriage. So she didn't have a lot of support, didn't really know anybody here. And I found as a child, my mom really leaned heavily on me to translate for her and to engage with adults in grown-up situations where I was basically her mouthpiece. You know, if my mom needed to go to the bank to withdraw money, she didn't even know how to ask the bank teller how to do that. So I was the one, you know, as a little kid, translating for mom and helping to make that transaction happen. And, you know, that came from a place of obviously love and protection, but it also came from a place of survival. It really instilled a sense of confidence in me very early on as a kid, just because of the sheer reality of the situation. And then fast forward through my adult life, you know, I ended up in the corporate world, working primarily in marketing, advertising, and promotions for some major companies. What I found over the course of 25 plus years in working in a corporate environment is that I was engaging with women, peers, colleagues, even managers, clients, where there were in these great roles at these organizations, basically making 80 cents to the comparative dollar of their male counterparts, that when they were trying to negotiate for a promotion or negotiate for a better comp package, it was almost like all the confidence went out the window. And they were really struggling for asking their worth. And that just has been such a consistent thing that I've seen over the course. I mean, so that's something that really hasn't changed.
Right.
And I'm so compelled to make a difference in this area now, because that really does have to change. So that's the reason why I'm here today.
My first question is, why do we second guess ourselves when it comes to putting ourselves out there, whether it's putting a proposal together or asking for a raise or getting the salary we believe we are worth?
I personally, you know, over how many years now, probably more focused in the last 10 plus years, have been doing my own personal development work. I think primarily there's something, the emotion that kicks in is fear, number one. And fear because we have undeserving beliefs that have been triggered, experiences that we may have had as a child. And this is different for everybody, but at some point from the moment we were born, when we really started to pay attention to kind of like our social interaction with our parents, our families, friends, and then in work environments, whatever it may be, that there are personal experiences that we all have had that have triggered this feeling of not feeling like we're enough. So we might have been bullied in the schoolyard, or, a group of girls that we wish we were friends with snubbed us in grade school, or that first love that professed their undying love to you one week, the next week said, nah, you're not my type, whatever it may be. Or you just didn't get that job that you thought it was like a shoo-in, but somebody came back to you and told you, sorry, you're not qualified. You're too young. You're too old, whatever it may be. But just those experiences that make us feel like we just aren't worth what we feel we deserve or what we want.
I have heard that before. And the way you explained it just now makes sense to me. So know your value, know your worth. Are there any actionable steps or tips or mindset shifts that may help us achieve this goal?
I think that's going to look different for everybody, but I think probably the overarching process, or what I like to kind of call the Christine Joy Luck Sarno hack, right? For kind of getting there sooner than later is, number one, you have to make a commitment to yourself and do the personal development work. If you know you're struggling in a certain area of your life, chances are there's an undeserving belief attached to it. So if your finances aren't where you really like them to be, you might be struggling with money. If it's a personal relationship and you're struggling with that. So what I would say is make that commitment to yourself to do the work, whatever that looks like for you personally, but commit to healing what's hurting. And then at the same time, too, I want you to be proactive and really assess your situation. And when we're thinking about it from a business perspective or a professional perspective, when it comes to work, looking for a job or, negotiating that deal, whatever it may be, what you really need to do is to identify all of the different experiences you've had, whether or not you've been paid for them. So the degrees that you have, right, that your educational background, the jobs that you've had, or the projects that you've worked on, maybe you were also a stay-at-home mom at a certain point in your life, and you were like on the PTA, or you helped serve hot lunch, or you organize, whatever it may be. Just list this stuff out for yourself on a piece of paper so that you can visually take a look at how robust your skills are, your experience, your value is. So that I think is really important to do, but you can't really assess your worth in a vacuum. And so you also need to be proactive and speak with people, whether they are peers, business colleagues, mentors, recruiters, to help you understand what your market value is worth today and what's kind of the going rate out there for somebody at your level.
I think you nailed it too. We all have such a difficult time trying to look at ourselves and how great thou art. When you were saying write down everything, jobs, what you loved, things you did, I think all of us would be surprised if we took that action and actually wrote down every little thing. We'd all be surprised at how great thou art. I think we do need to know what we bring to the table. What's next?
I think the most important thing to do is to take the opportunity to get out of your comfort zone. When you're ready to go into any type of negotiation, whether it's for a job that you want, you're trying to close an important deal, you have to be in a place where you've got to stretch yourself a little bit. Don't settle for the lateral move. Try to go for that next position, that next level, or maybe in an industry that you're not familiar with, but your skill set can still be applied, where there's learning and growth opportunity for you. All of these opportunities are supposed to help us challenge ourselves and grow a little bit. And generally, when you up level from one organization to another and you're going from one position to a higher level position, generally those compensation packages are certainly a lot juicier, right, than the one that you're potentially being paid now. So I think that's really important, to give yourself permission to reach.
And the other thing is to be clear on what you want. I just finished an episode all about clarity. It's really important to be clear on what you want before you go to that negotiation table.
100%. And just to be even more specific about being clear about what you want, it's in your mind. And again, write it down. you should be thinking about how much you want to make, what you'd like your benefits to look like. What does that career track look for you? Like, you should actually have that ideal or optimal compensation package or pay structure for that business deal or whatever it may be. That should already be pretty clear in your mind before you go into negotiation conversation.
Right.
You know, knowing what it is that you want.
Listen, write down your goals. You're 42% likely to achieve your goal if you write it down. So, as Christine just said, write down what you want. Salary, everything. And keep that 42% in your head.
So that you can get 150%.
Yes. Bump it up.
That's what I'm calling about the reach.
Yep. Okay. I want to talk now about create leverage, then leverage your leverage. Tell us what that means.
All right. I love this. This is something that I always share with my coaching clients, especially when they're going into kind of a negotiation discussion. Creating leverage means, in its most simple and basic definition, is to make sure you've got multiple options, right? You're creating an empowered position for yourself. So an analogy in your personal life is if you're single and you're dating. If you date the first guy that you met on that dating app, and then you just basically shut off the app and just hope for the best, I don't think you're going to have a lot of leverage there. In fact, if anything, that may not necessarily have been the right guy for you. So if you're single and you're dating, you should be, creating a rotation. Because what that does is it actually allows you to pace the process, to observe who's coming to the table with the best value for you, you're most connected with, and might eventually become your soul partner, your love partner. From a work perspective, if you're looking for a new job, so from a professional perspective, here's, an example. You should be circulating your resume to as many different companies as you can, working with recruiters to get your name out there, to find out what types of opportunities are out there, because essentially what you want to do is make sure you have multiple opportunities to choose from. So that's creating leverage. Now, to leverage, once you go into a salary negotiation, once a company decides they want to extend a job offer to you, you may have put yourself in a position where there's another company or two companies that are trying to hire you at the same time. And now you get to leverage your leverage, which means that that first company may be the company you want to work for, but they're not putting the best deal on the table. But you can have the direct conversation to say, there are two other companies out there that want to hire me today that are willing to pay me X. Can you meet that or exceed that? So that's what I mean by leveraging leverage.
Love it. It's basically don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly.
Now let's talk about it's okay to walk away.
Oh, this is one of my favorite steps. I always say this, go into every negotiation having made the decision that if you are not going to be getting the offer or the deal that's commensurate with the value that you can bring to the table, you have to be prepared to walk.
Don't settle. You're bringing up relationships, right? We're not going to settle in that. Why would we settle in this?
Well, isn't that interesting? For some people, that could be an interesting rule of measure in their personal life to see what they're willing to take. Sometimes that carries over into how they manage a professional dynamic too. Again, this speaks more to kind of the personal development aspect of one's life and making sure that you're doing the work to kind of heal those feelings of unworthiness or undeserving beliefs. But I would say that if you go into a negotiation discussion already in your mind, and this is not about being aggressive or, just it's my way or the highway, but it's about going in knowing that if somebody is not able to or willing to compensate you for what you believe you deserve, you've already in the mental and emotional space to say thank you for the opportunity and peacefully walk away. Energetically, when you're having that negotiation discussion, you may not even realize it, but you are commanding and radiating so much power that the person on the other side of the desk or even on the phone knows that you know your worth And oftentimes that's a big selling point in terms of whether or not they want to hire you. They want to hire confident people who are so confident that they know that they're going to get the job done and won't take less than what they deserve to come on board because they know it's a value exchange. It's your time, your resources, your experience for what they're willing to pay you.
We've talked about take action, be proactive, and get out there. But again, don't wait for it to come to you. You got to go get it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You got to want it. You know what? You have to want it. You have to be able to want that next step to the point where you can almost taste it. Whatever it takes to fuel that fire in your belly. You know, I think that's really important.
Okay, this is really important for all of us to understand as we move forward. So can we take it one step further? Don't look at know your value, know your worth as just words. Really understand the importance of it. Why is it so important for us to grab it, understand it, own it?
Why is it so important? Because it literally has everything to do with how we show up in this world. That energetic, radiating that kind of energy is such a powerful thing. People are attracted to it. People want a piece of it in a good way. What you're doing is you're creating an environment that allows people to feel safe and trust your confidence, your experience. An employer is going to be excited because they know they've got somebody A-list here that really is a go-getter, that feels good about themselves, that's going to be an asset to the company because they are going to bring that energy to an organization. So by doing that for yourself, you're actually doing that for others.
We're talking about getting in a confident state, right?
Of course, yeah.
So how do we get there?
I keep referring to doing kind of that personal development work. You know, that time frame for people to get to that place will vary. And, you know, this is not a linear path, which means we'll have experiences where we're really kind of strengthening that confidence muscle. And then we might experience something that throws us off. One of the things that I have used, this is kind of my life hack, if you will, to make sure I stay confident in business discussions, especially when I have those days when I'm not feeling especially confident. I go back to that feeling I had when I had to protect mom, when I had to make sure that, you know, she could come home with groceries that night. You know, how do we make sure we were able to withdraw money from the bank? That protective, fierce protective feeling, like channeling that inner fierce. I go into a negotiation with that feeling. And if it's not my mom, then it's my kids. You know, as a single parent of 2 kids since they were 4 and 2.5, I think about the fact that if I'm not going to be able to channel that confidence for myself in that moment, I'm going to do it for my kids. This is like a way to just kind of get yourself into that mind space and that heart space to feel like that inner fierce that you want to feel, you know, that kind of that empowered feeling to go into a conversation. So if for some reason in that moment, so again, this is a hack, so to speak, because this doesn't replace the long-term personal development work. But if you know, tomorrow's the interview and you're not feeling especially confident, this is one of the ways to do it.
Let's talk about how to get what you want and close the deal.
Remember that exercise we talked about, putting down on paper what it is that you would like that compensation to look like? I mean, basically, you know, how much is that base salary, ideal base salary in your mind? You know, if there's commissions or bonuses, if there's paid vacation time, like writing all that down. But in your hip pocket, be willing to come down to whatever that specific threshold is. Go in with your optimal ask, but know in your hip pocket or the back of your mind how far you're willing to come down to still feel good and still feel excited about taking this opportunity if you have to come down a bit, whatever that threshold is. And that has to be your non-negotiable. The whole point of doing this exercise is for you to maintain that confident, laser-focused energy about how this negotiation discussion is going to go, and for you to stay in that space of knowing what your worth is.
How do you handle the unknown curveballs that come your way while you're in the seat in negotiation?
That's an excellent question. And man, does that make that experience so much more fun. So this is what I would counsel. Be open to understanding what those extra responsibilities are, what those expectations are. Ask questions to learn a little bit more about how that would impact this original role that you were going into interview for. And, what I would counsel you to do is make sure you're asking all the right questions. Are there financial expectations or certain internal goals that suddenly you're going to have to meet that you weren't aware of as a result of these extra responsibilities? How much more time? Maybe it requires more travel than you anticipated. Remember, you don't have to make a decision just because you're sitting in that chair. Your response to that is, this is all great information. This is stuff that I'm excited to consider and process, and I'll get back to you.
While you were talking, I was just going to ask that question. Yeah, we feel like we have to take it because if we don't, oh my God, what's going to happen? But, you really got to think about things. And if you are thrown that curveball and have added responsibilities you were not aware of, step aside, bring it home, think about it before you give them your yes or no. I think that's great advice. Let's move on. Let's talk about these hacks that are going to keep you fierce and confident. I know you have 100 of them, but just share a few if you would.
Well, there's a couple of things that I do every morning. Everybody has a different practice, right? I meditate every morning. That's really important for me to kind of stay grounded, to have my own space, to be intentional about my day, to have some clarity before I go into this type of a conversation. I talked a little bit about how to channel that inner fierce. If you're having a moment, or it's the day before an interview or day before a negotiation for a business deal, and you're just feeling, not 100%. The confidence level isn't there. It's like, where do you source that fierce feeling? Who is it in your life that makes you feel fiercely protective and that you love so much that you're willing to even overcome maybe this block to get to the place where you need to be to make this happen? There's so many different great hacks. Another thing to do is to have a conversation the day before, or even the morning of, or day of, with a trusted friend, mentor, or colleague. Have them ask questions that you may not be prepared for, but just have a conversation with somebody that you know has your back.
Reaching out to friends and peers that know who you are, that know your value, can be that wingwoman or support system. And it's not because you're doubting yourself, but it's that reinforcement that you need at that time to help get you in the right mindset.
I think those are probably, I would say, my top three. Whatever it takes to get you into that kind of that clear mind space with clarity, whatever it takes for you to channel that inner fierce, and then to know that somebody's got your back.
Another one is don't apologize for... Okay.
That's a golden rule in negotiation.
Okay. So I'm not going to say I'm sorry.
I know we've talked about this before. And women especially, we're such nurturers. Biologically, we are people pleasers, where there's so much of that goes on with us. I can't tell you how many business meetings I've been in where a female colleague had something absolutely powerful and valid to say, and she devalued its impact by saying, "I'm sorry, but," and she prefaced her contribution with that. And I get it because I've been there.
Oh, I've done it too.
We don't need to apologize for what we have to say. We don't need to apologize for what we want. We need to take "I'm sorry" out of our vernacular when we're going into negotiation process. There's no apologies here.
Say bye-bye, adios to "I'm sorry." And then there was one more hack. It's okay to take a pass if it doesn't serve or meet your requirements, right?
100%. And this, I feel so strongly about this too. And this is one of the reasons why I said, go into any negotiation being mentally and emotionally prepared to walk. Right. And if you walk away, that's okay. That's another way for you to prove just to yourself that you know what your worth is.
And walk away with confidence too, right? This brings me to, how do we walk away from a bad deal?
I'm of the mindset of, it's best to not burn a bridge because you never know where that bridge could lead in the future. You just never know. And for whatever reason, if somebody on the other side of the desk is not willing to give you what you know you're worth, A, exercise your right to walk, but B, gracious for the opportunity. And I always say, you can think what you want inside, and you've got a bunch of 4-letter superlatives and some fun nicknames you want to really throw at them. Just keep that inside. But what I would say is thank them for the opportunity, right? Thank them for the opportunity. Explain, take it back to the business dynamic and say, as much as I appreciate that you'd like to extend this offer or to go into a partnership with me, unfortunately, that pay, that deal, that comp package is not commensurate with the value that I know I can bring to the table. And what I'd love to do is we can keep lines of communication open. We never know what the future can hold, and maybe, we'll be able to work together in the future. And that's what I would say to do.
No, that is the graceful way to say it, I think. We had a chat last week, and I'm going to agree to disagree here. And I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me and what I said. I had a client for a while, and they just kept chipping away at my fee and bringing it down. And finally, I said to them, this is a good business decision for you, but it's not for me. Thank you, but no thank you. Because it was a great business decision for that person. It just didn't work for me at all. Now, Christine didn't like the way I said that.
Well, how about this? It's not that I didn't like it. It depends on what your objective is. And generally, it's up to you. If you want to keep that door open because you still think there's value in keeping the door open, maybe go with my route. If you're okay with shutting that door probably permanently, then I like the Lisa Malcolm route.
Well, let me say this, and friends, you got to do what's right for you.
Right.
But I honestly believe I was really upset because I did not feel that they understood my value or worth. And that's why I felt confident and fierce, just like you said, to go and say that. You really have to do what's good for you. And I agree, do not burn bridges.
And I agree with you on that one. In that moment, whatever answer feels true and authentic to you and feels right to you is the right response. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are still coming from that place of feeling empowered and knowing what your worth is, whatever your response is your response, your authentic response, your right response.
Ditto. Okay, I have to say, you inspire me, my friend, and you have shared such great, valuable content with us. I think sometimes we need to hear it from someone else to help us understand it or give us some tips and tactics that we can do, because it does get overwhelming. So I thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Well, this has been awesome. I so appreciate you helping us identify ways to get past that doubt and understand our worth, our value, and how to get it. Now, tell us, how can we find out more about the amazing Christine Sarno? Where can people find you online?
Oh, Lisa, thank you so much for allowing me to be on your platform and giving me some kick in the ass that I need to. So you're doing magical stuff here, and I'm so honored to be part of it. If you want to connect with me, you can reach me. You find me via my website, ChristineJoyLuckSarno.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. Or you can just go ahead and email me at Christine, with a CH, at ChristineJoyLuckSarno.com. I'm actually planning an in-person workshop in Los Angeles in early 2020, probably in late February of next year, where I'm going to be talking about the art of negotiating like a tiger daughter and some other great kind of business strategies that could be applicable to your listeners' personal situations. And there's something special that I'd like to do for your listeners. And essentially what I'd like to offer is 20 free 1-hour coaching sessions. So basically the first 20 people that reach out to me between now and the end of this year for 2020 to help kickstart their new year. Any way that I can help in terms of professional strategies or even a little bit of life strategy in there. If they're struggling with something, I'd love to be able to help. Just go onto my website. You can reach out to me via email and just say, this is the Kick in the Yes free 1-hour coaching with Christine to take advantage of the offer.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Thank you. Kick in the yes!
Thanks so much for listening. If you have an inspiring Kick in the Yes story, I want to hear from you. Send me an email at hello@kickintheyes.com and maybe I'll feature your story on the podcast. Till then, always remember, knock out the no and tune into success.